You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika. Rejoining Fika today is author M.J. Moores, and it's great to have her back. I'd love to say it's great to see her again, but due to technical difficulties, we could only hear her last time, and a lovely voice she has. But the tech gods seem to be with us today, and we're getting the whole picture. Hi, MJ.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Vicky.
MJ has several series out there, but we're going to focus on her newest, to be released this December 11th, the White Ravens series, Book 1, The Hollow Kiss. I think it's her best yet. Here's my Fika review. Wow! MJ Moore has upped her game with The Hollow Kiss. It's a smooth read, straightforward writing without needless distraction allowed me to enjoy the story and the urgent mystery it provided. I immediately joined with the protagonist as she battled a past, a self, and outside forces she couldn't control. The action didn't stop, and I was left guessing until the last page. Plus, no species were disrespected in the writing of this book, which means I didn't yell out, "That's not the way a dragon, elf, or a folklorish creature character of your choice would act, even once." I'm eagerly awaiting Book 2, The Soul Collector's February release. Thank you for The Hollow Kiss. And welcome to Fika.
Oh, thanks for having me. And it's so great to see you and just, I would say and to see everybody, but everybody to see me, I guess,
That's right. That's the important thing. That they see you so they can recognize you on the back of the book.
Yeah.
Pick it up because that's that cool MJ girl. That is, and you are cool. I mean, you're a very, very young still, but the characters in your book, yes, you are really, trust me. The characters in still young. There's still so much living in those 15 years, MJ. The characters in your books, however, are even younger, just coming out of high school, and yet you seem to be able to relate to them so well. I mean, you got the the feel for them is what I'm trying to say. You still have those ideas. So did you want to tell us a little bit about The Hollow Kiss first so everybody knows what we're talking about?
Sure. Why don't I read you a little bit from the back cover? And then
Fantastic.
You get a really good idea of the voice of the main character, because the writing from the back really does give you a sense of what the entire book is actually going to feel like. So here we go. The Hollow Kiss. Bloody walls and supernatural espionage were not on the final exam. Graduation meant a whole new world away from the labels of outcast and freak, but a supernatural abduction leaves Corvina Dre with a hole in her memory and a deadly kiss. Inexplicably drawn to a dark stranger in a back alley, Dre's soul-sucking lip lock lands her with a DB and the local PD on her trail. Then, a girl she doesn't remember shows up out of nowhere and helps her dispose of the corpse. Dre's dead body bestie initiates her into an underground world with only one rule: expose the Fae and suffer the consequences. But navigating this piranha paradise to hunt down the maniac responsible for her transformation is likely to kill her. Or worse, can Dre reverse the curse before she spends the rest of her life in an orange jumpsuit?
Reverse the curse. Reverse the curse. Do you have it there so you can hold it up? Are you actually reading the back of the book?
I'm not. It doesn't publish until December 11th. I have
That's
no
right.
copies. I have nothing.
I keep forgetting. Okay, so no, we can't show you that. And it gets too shiny on my ebook. if I try to hold it up. So
Right.
that is the book, and a fantastic book it is. It just it goes right into action, and she's so easy to identify with, Dre. I think, anyways. I mean, I think we've all been, well, we haven't actually had soul sucking lip locks with with dark strangers in the alley. I hope, if there's any comment.
Maybe in our dreams.
No, yes, but she's suddenly thrust into a new world. Her parents aren't the people that she thought they were. um there's new languages, there's new customs, there's new everything, and she has to figure all that out, as well as who's causing this to happen. So you have to sympathize.
And it's
um
not, well, I mean, when you look at it too, you think, oh, it's just another one of those stereotypical kick butt, main characters that everybody's writing these days. And really, I mean, that's not true. I've always written strong women, but
a different
she's
kind of
not
strength.
impervious, right? Like she breaks down. She's
Well, she's
significant. She
vulnerable.
heals.
Yes, you know what? But that's a good point. Okay, let's go with that point, MJ. They do that in books. They make these characters that have, and especially in young adult,
Mm.
and it drives me crazy because I think that's not like the young people I know.
Mm.
Like they're just so self-involved. So the whole thing is I'm going to be tough whether people let me or not. If you're really tough, you're not going to tell people that. You're just gonna be like, does Arnold Schwarzenegger have to say I'm tough? No. We know he's tough. So it's that vulnerability that makes them tough, and the cleverness. Say, for example, in Shadow Phoenix, she was like a scientist and always concocting these things and doing her things, and she was brave without even telling anybody who she was, right? And so there's that strength, and there's Dre's strength, which is resilience.
Yes.
That girl has resilience, and that's what real strength is about. She keeps going when other people would just fall over.
The determination. I mean, she's lived it up to that point already because of the Lucyism that she has to deal with. Like it's very similar for those listening to albinism and the the effect of being albino, a lack of pigmentation in the skin. Anything when you're a kid that you're different. Immediately, there are going to be people who attack you for that because you are not like them, and it's really sad. And with her just being particularly pale, having to literally, and I say this in the book right near the beginning, to draw her face on. Otherwise, it's just so pale that it's like a wash, right? And it's a very real thing. But so, having to navigate through, and school, high school, trying to find friends, never really knowing if somebody is your friend or if you're being used. All of that stuff, you asked me, how can I draw out this character and still relate so much? All of my writing, these characters, there's a part of me in there. And at one point in my life, I was Dre. I was not, like, clearly I have brown hair, brown eyes, that
You had your own stuff.
But I went through some stuff, and it was rough. And I remembered that, there were some people that were there for me, but there was a lot of times where I tried to shoulder things too much on my own. So having her in this book and opening up this new world for her, and having that new bestie, that dead body bestie, show up. And there's a reason why Shar is helping Dre, and it comes out, right in the beginning of the story. And it is not really giving anything away, but she feels responsible for her and for what happened, being a part of what happened once, and so it's like you take that responsibility on yourself, and it's sort of like a big sister sort of mentality to start with, and then it works into that, that gradual friendship and a bond that builds between them, which is, nothing happens overnight. But trauma can bring people together.
Well, trauma, yes, is a definite bringer together. But not worth it. There are other ways, people. this is the thing. Dre, I think one of her biggest strengths is that she has integrity.
Mm.
Okay, she's not going to take the easy road if it means she's going to hurt somebody else. And I think all of these characters have something that they're willing to give, and their past in high school, and that very much has a lot to do with who they are. And I think that's the way it is in life as well. That you carry those things. So yeah, this is when I read it, I thought, old lady here, but I'm still I it's okay. I'm good because do I want to go back to being 18, 19 again? No. No, I don't. um, but I, sorry, I have to take a moment and think about reliving all of that. Okay. Um, but i- those things still happen to you later in life as well. You go into a new career, you go into marriage, you go into being an old lady. These are these are new places to be, new customs, and you always at those times find that everybody's telling you what to do, and you just about have becoming a parent for the first time. Oh my goodness, um, and everybody is telling you what to do, and you just want to say, beat it. So this is the kind of feeling that I get from those characters. And bravo, because you can bring everybody together like that. It's a major thing. Um MJ, it really is. This is why I I think it's your best. I really do. And
Aw.
I think that it can only go up from here because you've picked up some magic from
I
hanging out at the spotlight that is showing up in your work, and it's
know.
great. It's great stuff. I also wanted to say that these characters can really talk to each other, like, because they've all been through that, done there. So there's a certain patience, not with, for, in society today, sometimes we're almost afraid to ask questions
Mhm.
because we're supposed to know the answers of how different people live and different people's stuff, and asking a question it just seems to be starting an argument sometime when you're really genuinely asking the question. And I thought it was just so wonderful. I can't go into the details, people, because there would be spoilers, but I thought it was so wonderful that Char just answered Dre when she was fumbling with her questions and that, and kind of laughed at her, but not in a mean way. And it was so, if people could just do that, that would be a wonderful thing. So I really appreciated that in the book as well, the ability to ask questions and for them to understand each other, and you know
And it's not like we're being unrealistic here, because there are those of us who are capable of doing this in real life, even though we don't often see it represented, you know, on the screen or in day to day. You know, it exists. We exist, and it's really about finding, you know, your group, and where you feel most comfortable, and then the people around you kind of vibrate that energy back. And I think that's, she was just discovering that, and that's a really big part of her growth in throughout the book, is realizing that, yeah, okay, I'm different, I've always been different, now I'm really different, but so are other people, and we can vibe together.
well, I think that's the splendid part of it, is that they are different and yet they're the same. um when they say we all want the same thing, and in that book it was to belong.
Definitely.
Everybody wanted to belong, and there were so many secrets and so much hiding and so much, and that's never a good thing. So and there's more to be uncovered, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It kept you guessing till the very end of that book. And yet it wasn't like you sort of like thought in that direction, but still it made you go, oh, on that second last page. so, yeah, no, it definitely. Now, all the books you write, like you've written, would you call this young adult fiction?
Yeah, I actually refer to it as upper YA
Yeah, because
because
it is a
the
little older.
characters, yeah, exactly. And young adult, generally, when they read, they're looking for characters who are a little bit older than them.
Hmm.
So if there's a 17 or 18-year-old reading, they're going to want to read somebody who is, at least 17 to early 20s.
Right.
And I don't know, just in my writing, I seem most comfortable in that pocket. So I run with it. Like, why fight it?
Yeah, no. No, you go with what you want to, okay? I will accept it all. But it's still so it is way, but still it's a little bit different than what you've done before. I mean, we talked about the Demon series before, and I said some things that I haven't said before, didn't say before that, and haven't said since publicly. I'm still getting over that trauma, but but funny stuff. Then there's the I mean, this is fantasy too, depending on who you're talking to. But it's a little different. What inspired this new theme of yours?
Well, surprisingly, it's a new old thing. Um, way back, when I was first getting out there and looking for representation, I think I mentioned on our previous show that my first series kind of started with a small press, and then I wound up having to take it over and dive into indie publishing. But I was still determined in those early days, in the 2010 to 2013, to get representation, to go the traditional route. So I I wrote The Hollow Kiss over NaNoWriMo, and we're in the middle of that right now, National
Right.
Novel Writing Month. It was my first attempt at writing 50,000 words in a month, and it was difficult for sure. But even prior to that, what spawned the idea, I was just starting to network. I was doing a lot of things online, learning about what it is to be both an indie author and somebody who wants to get into traditional publishing. So I was doing a ton of research, and my son was very young at the time, so I had time when he was sleeping to be able to dedicate to that. And one of the websites, blogs that I used to follow was by an author based out of Dublin. Her name's Tara Sparling. And I found her, she just spoke to me, and it resonated.
There
And
are
so,
people.
that sort of thing. And then one day she just popped up on her blog an infographic about, just something fun. It was a title generator. And based on what the way these things work,
Yeah.
first name, letter, last name, date of birth, month, this, that. It was like 5 different columns, that you had to go through, and it would generate a title for you, including the genre of the book, that sort of thing. And it was like, okay, so let's see, based on your makeup,
What you should be
what
writing.
title you would get.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I went through and I put it all in. It's like, okay, and it came up urban fantasy. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I put in another thing, and then it was like, oh, okay, my article is and then I got hollow, and then I went all the way through, and then it was kiss. So I had The Hollow Kiss, and it's
So
supposed to be
it's been generating within you for like
well,
13 years.
no, like the story's not
Oh.
done.
Oh.
So she said right at the bottom of the infographic, if you were to write this, what would the blurb be, or what would your pitch be? Tell us a little bit about what the story would be. So I literally took maybe a minute to sit there and think about it, and I went, okay, yeah, all right, this is what it would be. This is who the character would be. This is the situation, and then I left it. And I went, ha ha ha, wasn't that fun? But it wouldn't leave me alone. So that was back in early 2014. So
Okay.
that 2014 November, because it wouldn't leave me alone, I wrote the darn story. And I started putting it out to agents and small publishing houses and mid-sized publishing houses trying to get representation. I did this for over a year, and it just sat on my computer after having been edited, and you go through everything and polished and ready to go. And then I started working on Shadow Phoenix, just so I had a side project, was still going through and building my following for my indie side, but I was determined. I was going to get represented with The Hollow Kiss. This was the pinnacle. This was some of my best writing, as you said, ever. And I was immersed in the story and the characters, and I loved the world, but it never went anywhere. I just kept getting rejection after rejection, or I'd get we have one that's similar, so we can't take this one on. And it was just like, okay. So then, it literally got put in the drawer, and I forgot about it until Shadow Phoenix finished. And then when Shadow Phoenix was done, I was staring at my screen. I'm writing my newsletter to my followers, and I said, so what should I do next? And I listed off 3 different projects, none of which was the Hollow Kiss. And and then all of a sudden, literally 24 hours after I sent that out, I was like, oh, I know what project I need to do. I have this story that's been completely edited and everything else, and it's been sitting for 7 odd years here, more, just gathering dust, doing nothing. I loved that story, so I revisited it, and I read through it, and I updated it, and I fixed some things. So again, we're back to making sure that it fits for now, because it fit for then.
Yes, but 11 years, a lot has changed,
Right?
tech-wise. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny when you go back and watch, shows that seem like they were there yesterday, like X-Files, and they don't have cells at the beginning, right? So 11 years makes a lot of difference in this world.
It does. And so it was a rebirth, I guess, for that book. And then when I was done, and I sent it through to my current editor. And so she helped me polish it up, and I had a proofreader, and I had a beta reader, and going through all these things just to make sure that it was ready, because I knew intrinsically inside me, like you
It was
said,
the one.
this is something like I've never written before, and even more so after I had gone through and looked it over again. So then when my editors had it, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to touch it for a month or two, I started writing book 2, and I wrote book 2 in a month this year. And so it was just like,
yes.
it was there. It was waiting.
It was just, you just needed to give it time to sit. And I think a lot of writers say that, like, I wasn't ready. This book has been with me for a long time, but I wasn't ready for it. So it was asking you to perfect your art.
Yes.
Because that is the true baby, and you wanted to give it a good place. That's why you held on to it for.
Yeah. And even just, there was so much learning I still had to do, and to make the choice and have it feel right to say, okay, this doesn't have to be traditionally published. I can do this on my own. I know how to do it, and I know the steps I need to take now, even though I didn't back then, but I was still learning and figuring it out.
Well, this is the thing. And with anything, I think a lot of acceptance has come out during that time for indie writing. But there is still a bit of that prejudice, which we're trying to do away with here at Fika, that you only independently publish if it's not good enough for a publisher. And this is the thing, as you pointed out, and many people that I've talked to, you can go with a great book to a publisher that says they want horror stories, but it's not exactly the horror story that the type they want. Like, it breaks down from horror to, like, this week we're doing these kind of horror stories, and same person, indie published and small press, like an independent press, which is another way of doing it, and just did amazing, like better than they would have probably with the publishing house, because they were more on top with their promotion. So it has nothing to do with being good or bad. It has to do with being trendy, the voice they're looking for that day, whether they had their coffee that morning. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I have spoken with agents, and that is definitely part of the key. Just don't mess with them until they've had their coffee.
That's right. And doing like the show and having to choose and make decisions, um that too, it's hard. I'm not putting down the people who have to go out there and choose the books, because it's a difficult job. And so sometimes you just get impatient and say, I need to be heard now. And this is a very great way to do it, to publish independently.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but yes, it takes a little to get your mind wrapped around that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it was not that I wasn't independently publishing. I was playing around
Yeah,
with
but this
form
was
and style, and I was experimenting. But the Hollow Kiss was not an experiment. The Hollow Kiss was my heart and soul. It was the story that I didn't know I needed to write, that Tara inspired me with just the title needed to be generated. And then
even
and I was
if it
like,
took
this is my
generations
story.
to do. She generated for generations until no, but see, I could tell it was completely in a different. Not that the others. I'm not putting down your other work, but I'm just saying that's the wow at the beginning of the review, because and I just sat there and just read right through it. Mr. Brian Greiner. Also, I'm wrapped up with you. I can't think about Brian. Okay.
Did you hear that, Brian? She can't think about you right now.
There we go. After exposing your readers to fictional Eldritch monsters, do you think they might be ready to tackle the real life horrors of being an indie writer? Oh, Brian.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but
Well, I mean, and he's very, as tongue in cheek as that is, there is a lot of truth to that, and it's we all have steps that we need to go through, and there are our own monsters. It's not just vampires and witches and dragons that you're dealing with, and werewolves and what have you. We have the same I guess
we
things in our it's those voices that say no, you can't do it, or no, you've tried that already, or oh yeah, no, it's not as good as so and so's, and we're always comparing against other people instead of comparing against ourselves. What have I done? How am I doing? Am I ready to take the next step? And so it's getting rid of those personal monsters that will actually help us indie writers take that leap forward and make the next step.
and to keep acting where you feel comfortable till you get there. Like you have done. How many books do you have out there?
This will be 20.
Yeah, see? You did your groundwork. We've discussed that before. You don't just come out there and be Neil Gaiman, okay?
Oh gosh, no.
You take and you have to work your way out there bit by bit. So the idea that I'm going to write the great American novel and and get all this acclaim, it's not going to happen the first time out. Write some short stories, maybe a grocery list. I don't know, but put something down on paper to get to that point. And it's also, this is where indie comes in as fantastic as well, because, there was a time where there was all those pulp magazines and those books with that you could buy for a quarter or whatever that had
Yeah.
all these stories in, and this is where people like Ray Bradbury worked their way up to being those names.
Yeah.
We don't really have that now. It's like books are expensive and people want the book, so indie is a great place to be able to flex your muscles and see what the people like out there, and because they can be deadly in the Amazon reviews.
Oh yeah.
So,
I just speaking of those Amazon reviews, I mean, even if I get a 1 star, and I have a few 1 star reviews on some of my series, but if you read those 1 stars, you'll see that the person who was reading that particular book, they weren't getting out of it what they expected. And they will often say, I expected this, this, and this. And it's like, well, that's
not
not
the
what this book is
author's
about.
fault.
And that's not what this story is about. But thanks for trying it, and I appreciate you, and now other people.
Oh, stop being nice, MJ.
I mean, think about it. Now other people will see that and go, oh, but I want those things too, so I better not read this one. And
Well,
then someone
this
else
is
will
it.
say, oh, so it is what I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to ignore that 1 star and go with the other 4 and 5 stars reviews and focus on that instead.
I think that we should. Well, see, I rebel against the star thing completely because I can't compare. If you like him, Shakespeare to a cookbook. Like, wait, who designed this whole thing? Like, you can't. Somebody. It's a really, really good romance, or like, someone's done 30 years of research for this tech book, right? You can't compare. Everybody, if I like it, they were courageous, they finished that book that I like, they get 5 stars. Okay, that's just the way I do it. Otherwise, I'm like, okay, I'm not writing the review. But I'm so far behind on reviews. I don't want people to think that I didn't write a review because I didn't like the book, because that's not true. I'm just behind. But the point is that sometimes people, they should be reviewing the book as is, period. I just want them out there to know. And it's kind of sad when you have your book out there and somebody gives it a 1-star review because they misinterpreted it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I've always said we should have warning labels for certain things on books, whether it's, certain kinds of traumas or whatever that's going to. But I want to talk to you about that. Because your books are always full of food. And the one thing that you describe, I don't know how you describe it. There's a certain a fried chicken company that I'm not mentioning by names because they're not sponsoring me if they want to be mentioned by names. There's a certain fried chicken company, which I haven't had for ages. They just put one in like 2 minutes literally from my house. And you have this whole thing where she is downing this chicken. So I was just like, yeah. I wonder if that non-named chicken fried chicken establishment is open at 2:00 in the morning, because this is where I'm reading it. So, are you getting big bucks for product placement? Does writing make you hungry, or are you like, you just mean?
No, I'm being realistic. Think about it. They were out, they were busy, she was famished, and right from the beginning, we know she called herself a meatitarian from the first hamburger that she went into. And, it's just one of those things where she's a teenager. They consume. I remember, I'm still like that, but I love food. I do. And I'm one of those people where it just, it's an experience. Food is an experience. Some people just eat to be able to fuel themselves, but the savor, the smell, the taste,
especially with certain fried chicken, you can smell from the highway. So how so this is it. Some people put gratuitous sex scenes in their books. MJ puts gratuitous fried chicken. Yes. In her book. And I don't think this is the first book I've read of yours that's had this particular fried chicken in it, is it?
No, because like I said, I put myself in the story, right? So it will probably always be there in some capacity or other, because I love food.
Well, obviously, I'm not opposed to it, and it didn't make me want. Like, it was just set out this craving experience where I'm like, yes, you should just offer that passage, and all they have to do is have someone classy like Stephen Fry or something to read that passage. You could up the entire style of the restaurant. Yes. And have Stephen Fry read that passage from the Hollow Kiss. And that would make the whole world would be running there to get their chicken. think so. I just want to point that out. I mean, I think in Demons it was coffee. I mean, you crave MJ's books, and then you crave everything else. That's just maybe I should just write that for a review.
Ooh.
Oh, just Claus says that all this talk of food has got Santa baking a pie now.
Oh,
Okay.
I love it. I love it. And I love all
Send-
pies. So it doesn't even matter what type. Just in the pie hole.
You can, because I'm very close to the border. Oh, right. I forgot to do that. Happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends. And I live like not right next to the border, but close enough that I can smell those pumpkin pies baking across the Niagara River. Okay. It's yes. There's so many times after like today. So say this week when my husband would suddenly pick up a turkey because he couldn't stand it anymore. Because everybody's showing their turkey pictures on Facebook. Author Jan Richardson says we're hilarious. Well, thank you, Jan. We were being very serious.
Yes.
We were talking about our pain and not having the chicken.
Now.
we have our things. We need to go out for dinner. Author Brian Grainer says, does this mean we can expect to find references to the Fae fried dragon in future books? No! Brian! Go back! I'm hiding you. Go back. No! The dragon was very... Okay, I think we should point that out, that they're not the bad guys.
No.
I mean, they're good humans and bad humans. They're a good fae and bad fae. And this is one of those times where we had that conversation last week. Everybody of this particular spectrum on the spectrum is considered fae. It's the umbrella of the magical spectrum of things. So this is the way it is, Brian. Stop it. No one's frying any dragons. The dragons would be doing that doesn't even make sense. The dragons would be doing the frying.
Right? I think he's just trying to poke at us and get us riled up. One after.
Brian do that? Something like that. So, MJ, can we possibly get so this is going to be a series. Okay. And we know that there's 1, 2, and 3. Now, when you begin a series, it doesn't work either way, Brian. When you begin a series, do you know how many books are going to be in that series? Like as you sit there, or do you just know there's going to be 3 at this point, and whatever else?
I have a pretty good idea of approximately how many books the main arc will take. With this, originally I was thinking it was going to be 4 books, but then I realized that there wasn't enough in my initial idea of what book 3 was going to be to have it stand on its own. So I combined my ideas that I had for books 3 and 4 and just put them all into book 3 instead. So that made a nice, fluid, comfortable arc, no dips, it seemed to work a lot better that way. But that 4-book idea was back 11 years ago. And then it's this year when I was polishing everything off, it was like, no. I'm much better at understanding these things now. It's definitely going to be a 3-book arc, a trilogy. However, I will not say that it will definitely end after 3 books, because we have been introduced to an entire world and a variety of characters. And if I find that my readers want more, I will give them more, because there is more that could come.
And you are, yes, I've had authors on that still call their series of 8 books a trilogy. because that's what they said in the beginning. So, it's just a trilogy with 8 books. And we can do that if we want to.
Sure.
But you are definitely a fan of series. I mean, I am, because as a reader, I know the characters and I don't have to give them up so soon.
Yeah.
But as a writer, you are as well, aren't
Yeah,
you?
I enjoy, well, I enjoy popping around and doing lots of different things. I like my historical science fiction where we've got our steampunk. I like my fantasy, epic fantasy sci-fi where we're on another planet, and I've got the urban fantasy, I've got romantic suspense. I like to jump around. And while some of my series are done, like my first sci-fi fantasy, The Chronicles of Xenia, um, and I've actually had some people say, "Well, aren't you going to write any more in that world?" I'm like, "Not really. Maybe I don't. I have no plans. I have, dozens upon hundreds of dozens of thousands of ideas that I want to eventually get to. But what sells is if you can make your first book feel relatively complete for those people who need to know, there's no
And it
cliffhanger at
was.
the end. Right. And so the question that was brought up at the beginning is answered at the end. There are lots of other questions that come up along the way, but nothing is so pertinent that you don't feel satisfied, at least was my hope, by the time you got to the end. And it's the same thing with the first book in all of my my series, just because having that standalone for those people who need the standalone is important. But then having the series for those of us who love diving into and living with these characters longer is also important. The longest series would be the Demon Tales series that I have going, and I write that with my partner, Nancy M. Pattenden. And that one, it's nice because it's a novella. I only have to do one a year because she does the other one, and we flip-flop back and forth with editing. And we always talk about character development together. So, I mean, it's like we're both writing the books at the same time, but, one of us is actually doing the writing. So that's like a little treat, it's the candy that you get to say to yourself, "Oh, you did a good job. Here you go. Now you can write this
You
story."
finished the book.
Right. And so that gives me a really nice mental break from living too much in one particular place. And then I can have my fun, have my cake and eat it too, eat that pie in the pie hole. And still dabble in all the different genres and with all the different characters I enjoy while carrying on with a series and or starting something new if I want to. So really, why just have one when you can have it all?
I am now picturing you as like the platinum blonde from the 50s, right? The whole Maryland. But even with Demon Tales, even though there are so many of them,
Yeah.
I still felt in the last one that I was just getting to know the characters because they're, you tend to like to write in a group, okay? Like within a group of not you writing, but the people in the
Yes.
book are a group. And so getting to know each and every one of them and getting to know those characters takes a while, which I think it's a lot to put into just one book when you develop all those characters and there are points to just give them up because now you can go on with the story a little bit more in the second one and the third one. So do you read series as well?
I do. There are several that I enjoy. I don't read as much as I'd like to be able to read these days. Just,
You
life.
have a busy life.
Yeah. And, I want to be able to get books out for my readers as well. And it's one of those things where I guess, like one of my favorite series I started way back in post-secondary education. And it's the Green Rider series with Kristen Britton. And she only put out one book every 2 years, which drove me insane.
Yeah, no, get them ahead, baby. Get them ahead.
Like she would take a year to write it, and then she would take a year to edit it and get it out. And but that was her process. She was a forest ranger. I don't even know where, but some forest somewhere in the U.S. And so she had a job to do, right? She was on the job and writing on her spare time. And But the books, they captivated me. And I still have a couple I haven't gotten to yet. I'm still buying the next one and the next
because
one because I'll get there eventually, and I will always go back and read book one
to
before to catch myself up again.
Yep, yes,
because
no.
it might be a year or more. And so I have to give myself that time to be able to read all those books again because they are huge. She writes epic fantasy and it really does pull you in. And I don't want to say when I start the next book or the most current book.
Where was I?
Exactly. I want to already be there. And so that's why I'm not getting as much reading in, but I do love series. When I have just a single standalone, those are great. Those are fun. And I'll flip through them if I need some brain candy to get me through a night. Fantastic. But generally, going into it, I go for the long haul.
I was gonna say, this is like, depending on your dating preferences.
Yeah.
MJ's not there for just a one book stand, man. She needs commitment. And see, now this is a scary thing and something I want to talk to other indies writers about. If you start a series, finish it. Like sometimes, or like get that second book out or that third. Sometimes I feel like I really am leaning towards people who already have a chunk of a series done. Because I can trust them.
I hear that too. Like often when I'm out selling, it doesn't matter if it's at a market or at a local bookstore or an indie bookstore, they come up to me and they say, "Is the series done?" I can say that for a couple of them, but some of them, I mean, Demon Tales won't be done until book 28 comes out. And then we've got all these specials for holidays that we're doing on the side, that aren't directly related to the plot. But to be able to say to them, I have a track record of finishing, or I already have X number out and I'm currently working on the next one, gives them that confidence to know that they can fall in love with my stories and they will still have the satisfying ending they're looking for eventually.
And they have a chunk to read.
Oh yeah.
To fill in till you get to those points, right?
Definitely.
I mean, I think it's just respectful of your readers to not, because it's horrible. I have books that I've read and will never ever get that second one.
I know.
Out there.
I do too. And I've gone searching year after year, and then finally I discover, they're not even writing anymore. And it's like, how does it happen?
Yes. I've actually gone in looking at different authors that I like, looking for the second book, and I've read like people. Now this I agree with because I'm just petty, but someone's saying I'm changing my review because I've waited like 5 years for this book, and you never wrote the second one, and it was a cliffhanger. Like this is deadly. So I would advise that. Now you had both your books pretty well ready to go. The first two ready to go.
Yes, and that's actually part of, we were talking about indie authors, and one of the strategies is what's called a rapid release. Now, I will never be able to write and publish a book a month the way some people do. I'm just not that prolific. I agonize and
you've got 20 books out, so you're pretty prolific.
Over 10 years. So that's, 2 books a year.
2 books a year is, you're just not superhuman. Okay, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just one of those things where I wanted to try the technique, and I felt like I was ready because book 1 was already done, and I knew where I was going absolutely with book 2, and it really did only take me just over a month to write it. So then while book 1 was, like I said, doing its thing, going through the edits with my editor, and I was writing book 2 and getting it ready, then it's like one swaps off and then the other goes back. And so I'm at the point where all I need to do really with book 2 is finish my final edits and send it off to the proofreader, which is why it's also up for pre-order right now, so that, you can easily get book 1, book 2, bam, bam. It's not being released till February, as we mentioned, but then in theory, that's 2 months from December to February, and then from February to April, that is my goal for book 3. But I didn't want to put a pre-order up yet because I don't want to guarantee something that I can't guarantee myself. Who knows what's going to happen in that?
She guarantees that the book is coming out.
It is.
She just can't
plotted.
guarantee the date.
Exactly. And it will definitely like be out no later than summer of next year. But the plan is still to do that rapid release where each one is 2 months apart. So that's my personal goal this time. I've never done that before. And it's a little bit stressful, let me tell you. But I think it's worthwhile. It's a learning curve, and it's understanding sort of, okay, this is a marketing technique, and if it works for me, then maybe it means I, write a book, put it in my back pocket, write the next one, and then start that cycle again, so that I am able to do that process instead of just write, edit, release, write, edit, release. I will never wait 2 years to be able to give you the next one once I've started publishing.
Because she's lived it, and it's trauma causing.
Yes.
But the important thing, like for indie writers, like we said, is to get your name out there, to keep you in their thoughts, so that one day somebody says, wait, I know that name, they must be good. Like this is
I love that. They must be good.
I remember that name. No, but that's what they're thinking. That's what they're thinking. So you keep fresh in their mind by putting like all the new ones out and reminding people that the new ones are there. And Brian Greiner says, I quite enjoyed the demon stories with their hyped local references. It's interesting to drive around the area and get flashbacks to the books. Oh my God, wouldn't that be great in a movie? Like someone living book flashbacks, right? They're their own flashback.
It's a book flash. Yeah, well, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's sort of The Impossible Life of, I can't remember.
Oh, Walter Mitty.
Walter Mitty, thank you. I read the short story, and I taught the short story when I was teaching, and then to have the movie come out, and it's like, I'm getting book flashback. I'm getting story flashbacks. So it happens, Brian. It does, and I totally feel you there. But yeah, the having somebody from the area read about, not just Ontario in a broad sense or Canada in a broad sense. It's like, oh, that's right around the corner from where I live. It's like, whoa.
It makes it like if I hear of a certain coffee company, being drunk in a book, and I think most of the Canadian writers that I know have done it at some point or not. I'm just like, yay! Like there it is. Yeah. It just, I don't know. It makes you, and when it is a local area, like I said, even though this book, it did mention Hamilton, but Kingston, but this book was much more generic so that the people could sort of feel wherever they were that they were a part of it. I think, which is also nice. Well, but I knew it was.
Sorry, if I may, Newdale is a completely made up town, but I have located it in between, like I mentioned Rednersville on the outskirts of town, and I mentioned Belleville nearby, and in book 2 we actually go into Belleville and we go into Caring Place, which are which are nearby, so you get a sense of where this make-believe town lives. It's very Margaret Atwood-esque, I guess, in that way, that you can say to yourself, oh, the Muskokas or the Kawarthas or whoever, but at the same time I can still play and make this my own town and do what I want and what I need.
Well, that's it. There's no one saying, oh, but that isn't on that street. Right? Yeah. It is you can play more. And Brian says also, if you find an unfinished series that won't be officially ended, write your own ending. I want to write my own book, not my own ending, Brian. Like, I mean, I just, you can do that, but if you pay for those other books, you shouldn't have to. I mean, it should happen.
It's part of the experience. Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, that's fan fiction, and lots of people who have not liked the way something has ended, they've rewritten it for themselves and they've shared that. And other people have enjoyed it, which is fantastic. But yeah, every once in a while, those of us who write, and I'm sure you agree,
have a responsibility.
Well, yeah, and we just sometimes we just want to read. We like it's like coming home from work at the end of the day. You just want to sit down and relax. You don't want to have to get the brain going again. And okay, no, I got to write the ending to someone else's story.
Yeah, no, because they couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, or whatever happened.
They couldn't. Um, yeah, no, because you know that they had something in mind, right? I do. I want to know what their mind worked out. So a
Yeah.
lovely suggestion. Thanks for coming, Brian. But we're not going to do that. Uh, we're going to just sit here and whine. But MJ, our whining time is up again
Already?
so soon.
All
Yes.
right.
So you'll have to I don't know, just drop me a note when you're free and you know what, we'll just take the cameras down to the local fried chicken establishment.
Dinner tonight on me.
And then we can make everybody else crave it. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you're into urban paranormal fantasies, and I'm going to say regardless of age, because I quite enjoyed this, and that's the way we should look at books. It's the book itself, the story. It shouldn't be age related. Please check out The Hollow Kiss, out December 11th at any of the places that offer such things, right? Like,
Just actually, I'm with exclusively Amazon.
oh, are you? Because
Yes. So pop by Amazon, and that's where you will find it. Yeah.
okay. Are you always exclusively with Amazon? Is that your thing?
It's for the past 7 years. Yes.
So is that something you have to do because of Kindle or
Yeah, if you want to be a part of the Author Select program and be able to do, again, we're talking indie again, people. So if you want
yeah.
to be able to have the ability to do sales, um, offer books for free certain days, then you are part of their program. I know a lot of different indie authors who will run their series of books through a cycle in the Select program for Kindle Unlimited readers. And then when they notice that the sales start to peter out and flatline, they'll open it up wide, which is what we refer to it as. We go wide, and then you get into other markets around the world.
So that's a cool extra note at the end of the show. So it was great to see you. It was great to see you. And we're wishing you all the best of luck
Thank
with
you.
the launch for this latest book, MJ. You take care of yourself, okay?
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, that was fun. And craving making. I wanted to point out that you may have noticed the new mug that I am sporting this week. This mug was created by the artwork was done by the artwork was done by Amy Keller Remph, and it is called Sky Dance Inukshuk, and she describes her artistic style as modern impressionist, and it just drew me in. So you can look her up on Facebook. Once again, Amy Keller Remph, or I'll be putting up a link in a picture of my fantastic new mug on my own Facebook, which you can see right underneath on the little label there. Next week, author Shane Joseph is returning, and I can't wait to discuss more of his work. So until then, may your coffee be hot and your stories sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone.